Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all fine. I'm going to read tonight Reisei Shin, number 17 of the Shokushu. We as human beings are given a mind that is directly connected to the universe. This is Reisei Shin. Water, when it settles, can clearly reflect the moon. When our mind becomes calm, Reisei Shin expresses itself clearly and unmistakably. Once this mind arises, in that moment, any selfish urges and desires disappear, and the universal mind of love and protection for all things shines forth. Let us polish our realization. Tonight, as you know, we're going to look at the 5 principles of noticing. Toi Sensei says here, when our mind becomes calm, then our realization expresses itself unmistakably, completely is present. Calmness is a byproduct, I taught you, of something. What is that something? That something is paying attention. Paying attention. Or in other words, we can say awareness. I like to use the word noticing because sometimes awareness seems difficult to reach. It's so complete. Noticing seems so everyday and achievable or accessible to us. If we just listen, we've done this so many times, instantly we become calm. If you just close your eyes and imagine a flower, if you're in Hawaii, maybe a hibiscus or ginger or heliconia or whatever you like, a nice gardenia, a Tahitian gardenia. If you're in Europe, then maybe a rose or a camellia or some other flower, just a beautiful flower. You just have to look at it completely for an instant, and we begin to feel calm. This is noticing. This is reization that Toi Sensei is talking about. A state of mind that is so calm, that is so bright, so filled with light, that there isn't any room. That's what he means when he says the selfish urges and desires fall away. That it's not that we chase them off or we're better than them or we've conquered them in some way. No, not at all. By turning on all we have to do is pay attention. That's why I keep saying again and again, all we have to do is notice. And we'll discuss that very deeply tonight. Noticing is calmness. Okay, let's do some key breathing for a few moments, and then we'll begin with the principles. Right away with 5 principles of noticing. Number 1, be present and aware of whatever is arising. Number 2, know who is noticing. Number 3, know what is being noticed. Number 4, be honest. And number 5, be fearless. Number 1, be present and aware of whatever is arising. We often spend a great deal of our time being aware of or noticing what is arising outside of ourselves and judging it, commenting on it, building stories out of it, wondering about it, how it's going to affect us in the future or in the present. That's not what this means. Be present and aware of what is arising means what is arising within us, right? In other words, what's happening within and not happening without. Our whole practice is what's happening within. And we could go into the difference between within and without, right? We think there's something going on inside of us that no one else sees, don't we? You don't think anyone sees what's going on inside you. We just don't. And when we look outside there, we think that we're the only ones that see what's going on over there. In some sense, these two things are true, but not in the way that we think. See, when we think like that, we're not noticing. That's the personality or the small self imagining that I'm different than what's over there. In other words, no unification. I'm separate from everything else. It is, of course, true that the other people that are separate out there don't know what you're thinking, just like you don't know what they're thinking. But when we practice like this and become very calm and begin being in awareness, then Reisei Shin is present. Then we do know what's going on in everybody's mind. And it can be possible that everyone knows what's going on in our mind. Now, let me just say real quickly, so you don't misunderstand that. I'm not talking about understanding what are people's thoughts, their private business, or other people seeing what's privately going on in your mind. That's not significant in any case. No one cares what's going on in your mind or anybody else's mind, right? Those kind of that kind of chit or that kind of inner gossip doesn't add up to anything anyway. When we're in awareness, we can feel the state of mind of the other person, and the other person can feel the state of mind that we're in. This is Reisei Shin. This is noticing. So when we pay attention to our state of mind, when we pay attention to these principles, who is noticing, what is being noticed, and we do that honestly and fearlessly, then we can know the state of mind that is in the room around us. You actually all know this already because you practice it, because everybody goes in and out of this state. And the more you practice, the more perhaps you're in the state than when you weren't practicing at all. But even if you're practicing a lot, like most of us are here, you know that there's a lot of percentage of your time when you are still judging and deciding about the motives of the person, the other person in the room, or the other people. But we don't do that when we're in the dojo. We don't do that even in this class, but we do that in our daily life. So noticing, we come here and we're already in a state of mind-body unification. We're already noticing. We're already experiencing Reisei Shin, right? So we come here to be reminded, to get sort of recharged. But, then you have to practice in our daily life. Otherwise, it won't happen. Number two, know who is noticing. The question came up last time about who it is. that is noticing. I ask you to tell me who it is that's noticing. Do you recall? So we think we have a sense of ourself, right? There's a sense of agency, of being someone. But if I ask you to look at who that person is and show it to me, you can't do that. We can't look at that, right? We've discovered that because if you're meditating, then you know that the one who is looking itself is the one. The one that has awareness is basically awareness itself. We feel it as if it's a being, but it's just awareness. There are no qualities to it beyond awareness. It's just being aware. The object of the awareness, the next one is know what is being noticed, okay, is not the self. The object is that which is arising within us. It's always the same three things. Um, Attraction, aversion, and indifference. Things we like, things we don't like, and things we don't think are important. That's how we react to everything that arises in our life. So when I say notice, I mean not notice what's arising in our life, but notice our reactivity. Notice our reaction to it. That's what we're noticing. You've already spent your whole life noticing what's going on around you, outside of you. No, now, Toy Sensei says, change your mind. Change the nature of your mind to what it is that's going on within us. What is arising? Now, in the beginning, maybe for the first 20 years, or maybe for the first 20 minutes in a meditation, we'll be noticing attraction, aversion, and indifference, because that's what our subconscious mind is made of, right? In the beginning, and that's what causes the reactions. So our reactivity is built of those three things, and it comes from our subconscious mind. So that's what we're noticing. But what if, as we put more and more awareness in our lives, more and more light, more and more plus in our lives, then our subconscious mind becomes built more and more of awareness, of light, of plus. And then when we're in awareness, in meditation, let's say, what is arising is awareness. There is no reactivity. There might be a pure response, but it's not reactivity. You see what I mean? In other words, this is the following the way of the universe we're always talking about. Whatever arises, we have no problem with it. We have no reason to want to hang on to it, cling to it. And we don't miss it. We don't ignore it. We aren't ignorant of it. We see it as it is. This is following the way of the universe. So this is true noticing. When reization is present and awareness is full, ki is extended, and we're in one point, unification of mind and body is present. This means there's no reactivity. That's why in Buddhism, they call those three things, attraction, aversion, and indifference, the three poisons. That's their name, the three poisons. Why? Right? Why? Because those are the three things that keep us from noticing awareness itself or noticing the noticing. Okay. The fourth one is be honest, and the fifth one is be fearless. Pretty much these speak for themselves. You know, honest in this situation means don't waste your time worrying about somebody else's problem. That's not being honest, because you know you can't do anything about somebody else's issue. You can only do anything about your issue. I can only do something about my own condition, my own state of mind. So noticing honestly is noticing what's arising within us, not just noting what somebody else, some problem someone else has. And you all know that when we're bugged by somebody that has insulted us, we feel insulted by, or that has hurt us in some way, or is not paying enough attention to us, or whatever it might be. When we have that kind of feeling, we have stories that go along with that. And those stories we tell ourselves again and again and again to justify that feeling that we have, to keep ourselves from noticing what's actually arising. That's dishonest. That's what I mean by being honest. We know there's nothing we can do about it. Don't tell ourselves stories about it. Being fearless basically means be ready for anything. Because as we become calmer and calmer and calmer, those things that are more hidden in our lives, we say down in the basement, which is what we want to notice, begin to make themselves available to our awareness. And they can be sometimes a little disconcerting. They can make us a little bit uncomfortable. We didn't want to know that that was part of us. There's nothing, folks, that is not a part of each and every one of you, each and every one of us. Everything is here. So sooner or later, we have to see it all. We have to notice everything within ourselves. Everything that there is within. And we have to see that. So that's why I say, be fearless. Okay, so that gives you a lot to consider. And while you're in your group, I've said this before, I'll say it again, probably. While you're in your group for 15 minutes, freely discussing, of course, we want you to be spontaneous and feel free to say anything, think anything, do anything you want. But be aware of the subject at hand and try to spend the time noticing and expressing to each other what's actually arising within you, not in other people. In other words, no gossiping, just what is arising. Okay? All right, John is your host tonight, your moderator. So he'll send you to your rooms for 15 minutes. See you in 15 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Just a reminder to notice your room number and also choose one representative as a speaker. Hi, thank you. Sensei, since his hand is raised.
Okay, Olaf Schubert Sensei.
Yeah, good morning, Sensei, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Or
it's
good
very
evening.
dark where you are.
Yeah.
It's dark here too.
Yeah, I was in room 1 with Tracy Sensei and Vitali and Charlotte. And we had interesting, you can't call it discussion. Everybody was just expressing how they see things coming up. So that was already different than other times where there's sometimes more discussion going on. But we really didn't come up with a question. The general topic was, yeah, you sit and you notice, and you can't be sure, or am I noticing? Who's noticing? So and maybe this could be a question. Can anybody be sure that the process is done correctly? But I wouldn't pose this question, but this question came up in the group. So
you wouldn't pose this question?
No, I would just sit quiet and notice and then see what's going on. So I have no question on that noticing.
I think there is an important question there. When we say, who is it that's noticing? And so, you know, the small mind, the ego personality does not get enlightened, does not get awakened. It just has to finally give up. And an awakening can be present, and then awareness can be present. Let me put it differently, because that sounds so like once in a lifetime. To the degree that we give up trying to control our own destiny, whether it's within us or without of us, within us or outside of us, to that degree, awareness can function, or awakeness can function within us. And awareness knows that's its nature. So you're right, there is no question. I mean, to ask, how do I know whether I'm noticing the right one is noticing or not? Knowing, I mean, awareness is awareness. By its very nature, it knows. There's no question. There's no such question for, but you might ask this question. We might ask this question from afar. We might ask this question if we hadn't experienced it as such. But most people that don't practice never have a moment of really knowing. They have believing, very powerful believing, wishing for, hoping for, praying for, believing in. And the same thing as agnosticism or religion, it's the same thing. Hoping there's no God, hoping there is a God, hoping there is going to be, wishing, believing that it's a certain way. And sometimes it's not about God or no God. Sometimes it's just about who are the right people to be in my country. So that's all very powerful, but it's not knowing. Most people have no experience of experiencing just knowing for the sake of knowing, just awareness, knowing that it's aware. This is not common. This is not ordinary. This is very extraordinary, and happens when we're sitting usually, but sometimes maybe just, there's the famous story about the Zen nun who's carrying a bucket of water from the stream back to the kitchen, and the bucket breaks, and she sees the reflection of the moon in the water, in the bucket, and the bucket breaks just as she sees it. And then the selfish mind stops, gives up, becomes utterly exhausted. Illumination in Surfeit really means, I mean, I describe it as getting tired of some sort of habit or some sort of way of seeing things. Illumination in Surfeit means illumination isn't here until you've had enough, until you're really tired of it. If you're not really tired of it, in that area of your life that you're not tired of it, You're not awake to it because there is no awakeness when the mind is busy elsewhere. All right, so thank you very much. That was really good, no question. Okay, next, please. Group 2. Hello.
Yeah, group 2. Christoph, Phoenix, Jan, Sally, if you guys can.
Oh,
Hi, Sally. You just muted yourself. You have to unmute yourself now. There. Speak.
okay. Hi, everybody.
Now we can hear you.
Me, I'm so computer literate. Well, our group also did not really have a question. We had a lot of really good conversations about what each of us was experiencing. And we talked a lot about, well, for me, I talked about that core of quietness and center that I feel is in each of us, but how we called it a ping pong where we can't stay in that core very well. We're kind of bounce around ping pong one way or the other. And we just shared each other's experiences with that. And it was Christoph, Jan, Phoenix, and myself.
Yeah,
So-
I think that the same, this ping pong business, I like that. It's the same thing as what I was talking about with Olaf. You know, we work so hard to achieve this peace, this quietness. It's like my cat, our cat. He wants to be petted when he wants to be petted, not when I want to pet him. Okay, so it really struck me today. Oh, it's just like me, you know. You have to wait for it. It's already here, but as long as we're seeking it, we're pushing it away from us. So just allowing it, leaving it. That's the thing about becoming exhausted in our effort to reach accord, and particularly when we're doing it in the outside world, when we're trying to find peace in the outside world. That's really ignorant, because of course we live in a relative world where there's supposed to be conflict. That's what it's made of. When you have two things, they're always going to be at odds. But our nature is peace already. No effort required. That's a way of saying it. Okay, thank you. Next person.
Hi, Joni, I guess you can go up since.
Okay, I'm not next, but okay. Hi, Sensei. Well, it was group 5 with Lynn and Roy, Linda, and me. Yeah, we're skipping to 5 apparently.
Okay.
We also didn't have a question particularly. Everyone spoke of very different experiences. Linda works in an office, and apparently they have to procedures for if shooters, possible shooters come in, and a questionable character came in one day, and her experience of dealing with him, she spoke about, and her noticing her reaction to that. And Roy spoke about fishing and his awareness, and when he's how aware he has to be and focused when he's not deep sea, but spear fishing. And Lynn talked about meditation, which when we get sidetracked, we're very quiet, and then we start having experience and have comments, all the comments coming in, we get notice, and how what to do about it. And we talk about, you just have to notice and then let it go. That's what noticing is all. That's the core of noticing, really, and the training of meditation. And I guess mentioned mostly just every daily. It's something I notice, think about often because of my work and because of interactions. So reactions inside me. I'm constantly looking to notice, noticing that I don't have to react to. I don't have to follow a pattern. I don't have to make these stories up, as you were talking about. And I've really had, well, for various different reasons, but well, it's been invaluable for me to reach a point where I can do that as much as I've been doing. So those are our four basic comments, amongst each other. Lynn also came up with a who is noticing that Olaf, again, that wasn't my question, but that was one of her questions. And yeah, I don't.
Yeah. I think the more I go through this, living, I guess, living. And but because I'm always addressing this, because I'm teaching about it so much, so that it's always present in my mind. That's one of the great values of the responsibility of teaching. You better be paying attention. You better be noticing. And yet the humor, the great cosmic joke about this to me is always, the more I concern myself with it, the further it flees from me. From me, meaning Christopher David Curtis. Christopher David Curtis is never going to wake up. That's not his job. His job is to shut up, to get out of the way and allow this all to take place. And I never thought before, I noticed many teachers and students, sannyasin and people like that, people who get into training either Zen or Hindu or some Sufi, they change their name. And when I was younger, most of my life I thought, that's kind of corny. Yeah, that's unnecessary. Why would you change your name? I really see. I see there's something to it. I'm not going to change my name. I don't think it's necessary, but for me. But I really can see that yeah, Joni Jackson is the vehicle, but she has to get worn out enough to let it happen. So this is true with all of us. I think I'm not even. I have a feeling I've never emphasized that enough. Okay, thank you very much, Tony. What happened to group 4? Could we have group 4, please?
We haven't done 3 yet, have we?
I don't know. Just go.
Okay, aloha. I'm speaking on behalf of group 4. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Sensei. Thank you for this opportunity. And group 4 was Sensei Fincher and Vernon and Joelle. There you are. It's nice to see everyone on the screen. So thank you. We had a good conversation, and we did talk about numerous things, but I did have a question. So I think I want to just get to that, pose that question. So in this awareness, being aware of how we're perceiving things in the world outside of us. Right now, especially with this political climate, I've been noticing that I am perceiving, and many of us might notice this too, a very different scenario than what somebody else is perceiving as being true and being fact. And so it's like two totally different realities happening. And, and so I wonder sometimes, like, wow, how can somebody have such a totally different viewpoint than I do? Am I the one who's deluded? Maybe I'm the one who isn't, is being lied to or conned. I don't think so, but who knows? Like, it's so incredible how we can get so caught up in our beliefs of what's actually happening in the world. So how do we, this practice has helped me tremendously. I'm very, very grateful, because this came from a dear person actually who did think like me for many, 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 many years. And so it was really astounding to me, but I was able to just keep my cool and debate the facts, but then just go, wow, well, that's fascinating that you see it so totally different, without being attached or without trying to say you're wrong, and I'm right. And, I was able to just go, wow, it's fascinating that you see it this way. So I'll leave it there. Thank you. I hope you can help me.
Well, I think I have to say, okay, this is a relative world. These are relative conditions. And of course, we need to be able to choose a good apple from a rotten apple when you're buying an apple at the store, right? Yeah. So there is something to perceiving integrity, quality, equality. But it can only happen if we're open to it. If it's happening because of a belief, then yes, you are being conned. You are allowing yourself to be conned. But if you are noticing what's actually going on within yourself as it arises, this is what we're talking about, the 5 principles of noticing, then you'll know when you're being conned and when you're not. You'll see what is a con job, and it won't matter. It doesn't mean that one side is right and the other side is wrong. It would be fair to say that both sides are conning us. That's their job, to con us, okay? That's what a politician is. But it would also be fair to say that within each side, there is some truth. There is some honesty. There is some quality, okay? But because of your particular conditioning and your particular practice that you've done, you've opened yourself up enough to be able to see where the majority of the integrity lies. So the only way I can put it. That right now in my life, that's the way it seems to me, which I didn't used to be able to notice as much. It wasn't as noticeable to me, let's put it that way, as it is now. It wasn't as evident. It wasn't as obvious. But I did have strong beliefs that I had to let go of. You know, it's like I said before, there's people that believe in God, that there is a God, and there are people that really believe there isn't a God, but they're just beliefs. You cannot say because you're not qualified. We're not qualified as human beings, but you can know. That's what we're talking about, awareness. Awareness can be aware of itself. But the Bible says, no man has seen God at any time. So that means no personality has ever noticed. Because the personality is not, that's belief system when it notices something. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay, thank you. All right, so I think,
Sensei,
yes, hello.
hello, Sensei, everyone. Group 3.
Yes,
I was with Alva Sensei and Alexi, and we had a very good discussions about noticing, and we have questions. What's the difference between noticing thoughts and noticing a state of mind? That's one question. And the other question is, when you notice your thoughts, isn't it your thinking?
wait, say that again.
What's the difference between you notice your thoughts and thinking?
Oh,
I have those two questions. One is noticing thoughts. Is there a difference between noticing thoughts and noticing a state of mind?
so, all right, just technically speaking, uh, thoughts occur in a state of mind. You can tell your state of mind, your own state of mind. You can notice your own state of mind by the kind of thoughts that are arising. So that's why I talked about uh, um, liking something, not liking something, and ignoring something. Those three things. When those three things are arising, and that's all that's arising over and over and over in your thought world. I mean, those manifest as thoughts, right? So those are the thoughts we're talking about. Whereas on the other hand, if you're in one point and you're contemplating, you're watching the beauty of that flower or the incredible calmness of this deep sound that's everywhere, and a thought of gratitude arises, then you'll notice right away that it's a different state of mind. Your body will tell you. When you're jealous, your body feels one way. When you're loving, your body feels differently, right? So it's that kind of gnawing feeling that you have. So that's your state of mind. That's indicating your state of mind. So in that state of mind, sort of grabby, fierce, needy thoughts arise. But in a state of mind that's loving and filled with gratitude, very peaceful and appreciative thoughts arise. Okay. So tell me again your second question.
So noticing the thoughts, that's different from thinking. How is it different from thinking? Between the
Okay. So
and
if you notice something
Mhm,
and you begin to think about noticing it,
mhm.
that's not noticing. That's thinking. That's more thinking.
Okay.
Noticing, awareness is just awareness.
Mhm.
It's not doing anything with anything. It's just knowing. It's just awake, being awake to what's happening. And seeing it. It's really simple, not mysterious.
Mhm.
Don't you think so?
Now I feel so.
Okay,
Before.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there more? Are there any more groups,
That's
John?
all the groups.
That's all the groups. Well, okay, so yeah, it's 1/4 so thank you very much. And I'm glad to hear that this did sort of influence the way you approached what you were doing in the groups. It sounds to me like that you were actually practicing this in your group. And I'm really happy to hear that. So the result is not always that you come out with a brilliant question. I mean, when we're operating right at the edge of our practice, we talk about that sometimes. That means you're completely present now and now and now. That's the edges now. The edge is right here now. And it's a movable feast. It's not a fixed place. So that edge is arising always. It's bubbling up. And we don't know what's coming. We don't know what will arise. It's a mystery. It's constantly mysterious. And yet, so the knowing is not knowing what's going to happen next or knowing all about everything. The knowing is awareness. Okay. Thank you very much. どうもありがとうございました。See you Sunday.